Today I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, bring you a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, bring you comics news, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching the Comic Hero Show. Now kick that logo! Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. This is the last Mardi Gras episode of 2019, and I hate that Mardi Gras season is coming to a close, but I really had a lot of fun doing the last two Mardi Gras episodes, and I know this one's going to be no different. And I was gonna have some of the foods that I told you about that we eat during Mardi Gras season in Louisiana, but I'm trying to save some money for to go to Louisiana Comic Con next month, and it's in. Verdict is in. I'm definitely going to Louisiana Comic Con. I've made up my mind. I'm gonna buy my ticket. Gonna go ahead and reserve a hotel room. Yeah, Acadiana, I'm coming back. Alright, now I may not have any of the foods that I was telling y'all about at the end of me as I promised, but I can tell you what they are. Alright, now one of the most common foods that's usually eaten during Mardi Gras season here in Louisiana is king cake. Now not all king cake are made alike. Sometimes you can get the best king cake from a bakery. I mean, if it's freshly baked, it's the best. And I've been to different bakeries throughout North Louisiana, even when I lived back in Northeast Louisiana. And my favorite flavor of king cake is praline. Although there are other flavors. There's also, there's strawberry cheesecake flavor. There's regular cheesecake flavor, and then there's maple syrup flavored king cake. Now, here's the one thing about king cakes that a lot of folks, that's very interesting. They usually hide a miniature plastic baby inside the king cake, and if you slice a piece of it, and you end up with if you end up with a slice that has the baby in it, then from my understanding, my pastor told me that if that happens, that means that that person is going to end up welcoming a child into the world. Has that happened to me? Maybe. All right, now the next thing is crawfish. Now crawfish is the only part of crawfish, only part of it that you eat is the tail. You pull the tail out, and there's a piece of meat off in there, and then you eat it, and then you grab the rest of you grab the other part of the crawfish, and then you suck the juice out. Now, some of you folks up north are probably wondering why in the world y'all consider fish bait to be edible. Well, here in Louisiana, crawfish, not fish bait, is. And I can go on, but this isn't a show about food. This is a show about comics. So those are two of my favorite foods to eat during Mardi Gras season. Now, one thing, although crawfish, you can pretty much eat that like any time of the year. King cake, not so much, but crawfish. That should be a 365-day meal, and it is. Alright, anyway, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. Alright, last week's episode I asked true or false. Black Lightning was originally created for the Super Friends cartoon. Well, the correct answer is false. He's an original comic book creation by Trevor Bondi and Tony Isabella in 1977, and he made his debut in his very own series entitled Black Lightning. However, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera liked the character so much that they asked Isabella and Von Eaton if they could use him in the Super Friends cartoon. They said no, because at that point, every other character that was on the Super Friends that they had used for the show weren't paying the royalties to the original creators. So they bowed out, and that's how Black Vulcan ended it and got created. Yes, on the show, from 1977 to 1985, there was a knockoff of Black Lightning called Black Vulcan, and they used him instead. Well, 9 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, their names have been entered in a drawing for a free tea. And that drawing takes place right now. So, the winner of the free tea for this week's episode of the show is Donna Biggs from Longview, Texas. So congratulations, Donna. You win yourself a free Comic Hero tea. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode, and this is also a Black History question. Who played Dr. Bill Foster in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Everyone who answers correctly been entered in the drawing for a free tea for next week's episode of the show. So, I gotta ask. Any questions?
Questions I walk around in. Questions I didn't thrive in. Questions I will survive in. Questions.
Alright, I have 2 questions for this week, and they're both from Robert Freeman from West Monroe, Louisiana. The first one he asked is, do you feel the way Marvel handled the resurrection of Cyclops in Uncanny X-Men Annual Number 1 was done in a lazy and repetitious way? Well, Robert, I would say it was repetitious. I think the way they went about it was that they included the younger version of Cable, the one that who in Extermination ended up killing the older one because he allowed the arrival of the younger version of the 5 original X-Men to come to the present day Marvel Universe happen. I mean, he pretty much killed him because he had lost his way. And while I'm thinking about that, but the only reason he probably let that happen was because he was too busy being a dad to Hope. Well, sometimes when something like that happens, you kind of, your priorities change, and I guess the younger version of him didn't exactly understand that. But the younger version of him decided to recruit an MIT graduate that Cyclops had saved from a college professor who had been fired by the administration, and hired him to go to invent a device that would siphon out what was left of the Phoenix Force out of his body in order to resurrect him, because he had actually died twice. He died first in the Death of X miniseries. Then he died when Jean Grey had come back for good. Now his death during the Death of X, that pretty much had to happen because his death was by natural causes. It was by the Terrigen Mist, and then that was when they ended up getting his body and then planting the device to siphon off the Phoenix Force out. Well, siphon the Phoenix Force out of him, and then so that when he was brought back to life by Jean Grey, he came back for good. And I honestly didn't think that was that was repetitious or lazy or any way. I mean, I get it. And I can't wait to see what Cyclops is going to do in future issues of Uncanny X-Men. Now, the second question he asks is, if so, do you feel Marvel has developed a bad habit of rehashing story events over and over, using select characters that are popular instead of developing and using any of their many other characters? Well, Robert, I don't think it was late. Again, I don't think the whole story arc of the Uncanny X-Men Annual #1 was lazy and repetitious. However, I do agree that Marvel does have a tendency of using old story arcs, and you know they and a lot of times they are lazy. And then here's the worst thing about it: none of the creators, whether they're writers or artists, especially writers, don't pay attention to each other. And it is that's something that's been made known over the past maybe 5 or 6 years. And I think that they've gotten a little lazy, mainly because they you know what, I'll keep saying this until I see something different. They're being too dependent on the Marvel Cinematic Universe division of Marvel to clean up their. They're pretty much using him as a security blanket. Now, one thing, and I've said this before, if you work for a company like Marvel, you better dang sure do well in every division. Not just like do a lackluster job in one division and then allow another division to do well. You gotta be 100 in every division, and Marvel knows better. They've been sure they're the little brother to DC, but still they know better. The comics division knows better. They've been cranking out they have cranked out so many great story arcs and come out with so many great characters, and I think that we as readers deserve better than what they've been giving us over the past few years. So Robert, I do agree with you. I do think they have become lazy and repetitious with overall. And it's time for them to start doing better and stop relying on the Marvel Cinematic Universe to save their bacon. All right, that's it for any questions. If you have any questions you want to ask me, go ahead and ask me, and you can ask me here on YouTube, or if you're watching this from any social media outlet, go ahead. If you just come to me while I'm out and about, let me know. I'm so glad I'm doing this segment again, and I really love asking and answering your questions on air. Alright, now Curtis Harris from Youngstown, Ohio has requested a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, and this one features two minds, two very powerful minds, and one of them is a little alien who wields a very powerful weapon that can probably slice you in half if you're not careful. Representing Marvel, we have Professor X, and also representing Marvel, we have Yoda. These two are gonna duke it out in a segment I like to call
the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown.
Welcome to the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Today, it's Professor X versus Yoda. Professor X possesses genius-level intellect, incredible ESP, telepathy, and mental manipulation powers. Yoda possesses agility, cloaking, danger sense, empathy, energy blast, force fields, intelligence, longevity, marksmanship, precognition, reflexes, stamina, stealth, super speed, telekinesis, telepathy, the Force, and is a weapons master. Who will win? Yoda understands that Professor X is a very powerful telepath, so he doesn't take him lightly. Yoda goes on the attack with his lightsaber, but Professor X freezes him in midair. Professor X then sends him flying backwards, but Yoda's reflexes allows him to land feet first on a wall. Yoda then uses super speed and slices Professor X's wheelchair into pieces of scrap. Professor X tries to mentally manipulate Yoda into walking away, but the Force is way too strong with Yoda. He walks towards Professor X, cocks his lightsaber back, and turns it off. Professor X looks confused by this,
But then Yoda ends the fight by knocking Professor X out with the handle of the lightsaber. Yoda wins. Right after the fight, Yoda goes over to Professor X. He waves his hand over his head and says, "Awake, you will." Professor X awakes and asks, "Why would you awake me?" Yoda replies, "A formidable opponent you were. Return the favor, for that I must." Yoda heals Professor X of the spine injury that previously left him in the wheelchair for life. Professor X replies, "Thank you, Yoda. Come. There are a few of my students and staff who desperately require your tutelage." And that concludes this fight on the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown.
Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that fight. If you have fight requests for future episodes, contact info is down there. Alright, folks, it's time for Comically Speaking, so without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there are 5 things that I'm going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking. And the first one is the news of Godspeed, an original character in the DC Universe coming to an episode of The Flash. And the name of the episode is going to be called Godspeed. It's actually going to be directed by Danielle Panabaker, who plays Dr. Caitlin Snow and Killer Frost. And now, let me explain to y'all who Godspeed is. Godspeed is a character that debuted in the current volume of The Flash. There was an explosion of the speed. There was a Speed Force explosion that happened that occurred throughout Central City, and a lot of folks ended up with super speed, including one of the Flash's co-workers, Detective August Hart. Now, Hart ended up becoming this bad guy, even though the Flash trained him to use his speed properly. Instead of, unlike everyone else, he became a bad guy. He became the character Godspeed, and he believed that true justice was killing bad guys. And of course, we all know that's not the case. There's no justice in killing, and there's no killing in justice. And honestly, I mean, I'm very intrigued by the character. I mean, I always I think Godspeed is like one of the most. I mean, to me, instantly became one of the most deadliest villains that in the Flash's Rogues Gallery, and I can't wait to see how he's going to be portrayed on the TV series. So, can't wait, or as Bart Scott would say, can't wait. All right, now the second thing, or actually the second and third thing, they both go together. 2 new guests that have been announced. 2 more guests have been announced as guests at GeekCon, and that's artist Roland Paris. Now, Roland, very good friend of mine, met him, I think about 3 years ago. He's been a long-time artist for Marvel. Has been on almost every book you can think of under with Marvel: X-Men, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and he's also done artwork in official handbooks to the Marvel Universe. And great guy. I'm going to try to get an interview with him again. The first time I got an interview with him was back in 2016 over at what used to be BC Comics in Bossier City, Louisiana. Great guy. Baton Rouge native. Love that guy. And the second guest is an actor, Michael Biehn. Now he actually had his own TV show that only lasted 1 season called Adventure Inc. But he's most famous as his portrayal of Reese in the very first Terminator movie from 1984. I'm going to try to get an interview with him because, great actor, great guy. Why shouldn't I get an interview with him? All right, now the fourth thing, and this is a kind of a very unfortunate thing. Gwyneth Paltrow has announced that after being in Avengers Endgame, she is retiring from the Marvel Universe. She will no longer play Pepper Potts. And I hate that because, she was part of the Marvel Studios from the beginning. A little over 10 years ago when she played the role of Pepper Potts in the first Iron Man movie, the movie that started it all for the current Marvel Cinematic Universe. And she's also going to suit up in Avengers Endgame. She's going to have her own armor called Rescue. And I just hate that she's not going to be in it. But how can you not like Gwyneth Paltrow? I mean, she's such a wonderful actress. My favorite movie that she has ever been, believe it or not, hasn't been any Iron Man nor Marvel movie. It's actually Shallow Hal. Really loved her in that movie. So Gwyneth, thank you. I'm not mad at you. I mean, there just comes a time when, folks just have to move on, and unfortunately, and I guess this is just your time. But thank you for playing playing a role of a great character. And here's the thing about the importance of her playing the role of Pepper. Now, for the longest time, Pepper was kind of like one of those characters in the Marvel Universe that was somewhat insignificant until she played the role of her in the first Iron Man movie from '08. And then after that, it increased. I mean, the character became so popular to the point that she started becoming popular again in comics. I mean, so popular she ended up getting her own armor, and that's the inspiration behind her wearing the armor in Avengers Endgame. So yeah, but Pepper, good luck on any acting roles you may have, and also your personal life. We love you. All right, here's the last thing. There's going to be a brand new Spider-Man character, but this one's going to be a little different. This character is called Spider-Bite. He's going to appear in a future issue of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and he's going to come as a result of Spider-Man losing his powers, and then one of those end of the world scenarios that occurs with the Marvel Universe. I don't know, because the way it was perceived, it's almost like kind of a Scrappy-Doo character. He's that character that that shows up when the chips are down, but then when things go back to normal, you're just like, go away. I mean, he's not like the Miles Morales Spider-Man. He can hold the Miles Morales Spider-Man, the Gwen Stacy, the Spider-Gwen, all these Spider-Woman, all these other characters that can actually hold their own and really don't depend on Spidey. This one's probably going to be dependent on I think it's going to be dependent on Spidey. It's going to get real annoying after a while. And I could be wrong, but that's my view. Alright, that's it for Comically Speaking. It's time to get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
Alright, first up is Avengers number 15. Batman number 65. Justice League number 18. Return of Wolverine number 5. Teen Titans number 27. Uncanny X-Men number 12. And finally, Doomsday Clock number 7. Alright, that's 7, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 9,199. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Who played Dr. Bill Foster in Ant-Man The Wasp? Everyone who answers correctly will be in a drawing for a free tee in next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Donna Biggs from Longview, Texas, who won a free tee in this week's episode. Alright, this is the last Mardi Gras episode of the show. Can't wait to do some more Mardi Gras episodes next year in 2020. If y'all are going out to any Mardi Gras parades, I know there's the Crew Gemini parade in Shreveport this weekend, and then there's some really big ones in different parts of South Louisiana next Monday and Tuesday. Y'all be careful, catch some bees, make some friends. Be careful because I've also heard about some shootings in New Orleans where one person died, and I just hate to hear news about that. So so I'm not saying don't have fun, or I'm not saying don't go down there, but just be careful. As I said earlier in the show, I'm definitely going to Louisiana Comic Con now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Just gonna buy my ticket, make a hotel reservation, and hopefully I'll be able to get some interviews with some of the guests there. I know some of the guests that are going to be there. I'm quite sure the Spidey team's going to be there. Cody Chamberlain's going to be there. He's a native of Lafayette, and Bob McLeod, legendary artist who co-created the New Mutants, he's going to be there. Going to try to get some interviews with some of these folks. And it's going to be great. And also I'm going to do a split edition of it. Part 1. Now part 2 of it is going to be at Louisiana Comic Con. Part 1 is going to be at Acadiana Comics and Collectibles in Lafayette. Alright, I'm Victor Nunley. I'm the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 246. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and laissez les bon temps rouler.